Hi again, part 2, stuffed it up. Don't know what I did wrong. Still learning with this whole videoing thing, so at least you get part 1 and part 2. Okay, plum sauce. Oh, Catherine here from Catherine's Kitchen. Welcome again. Plum peach sauce. I have put this on the stove. It has reboiled. It is a beautiful consistency. Some people like their sauce quite thick, so if you think that it's too thin for you, all you need to do is just boil it a bit longer and reduce it until it thickens. But one thing that you need to remember is your sauce will be thicker when it's cold. So that's the same with relishes and chutneys as well. They're always thinner when they're hot, and as they cool, they thicken up a little bit. So don't do what I did one year when I was making tomato relish. This was like 40 years ago. And I looked at it and I thought, oh, that looks a bit thin. So I added some more flour and water to it and thickened it up to the consistency while it was hot that I thought was really good. And then it went cold and it kind of set a bit like a jelly. It was still tasty and it was still good. But yeah, nah, I learnt that one a long time ago. So just a wee handy hint there. Right, so this is boiled up. I've had my bottles in the oven heating up. So let's go ahead and bottle it, and I'll just show you what I do. I generally do 4 bottles at a time, but that's just me. Right, I have pre-boiled the jug as well. So now I'm just going to put some hot water onto the lids. You can boil them in a pot on the stove, or you can do it this way. It doesn't matter. Do what's right for you. The essentials: a funnel. Trust me, it really helps. A jug. Now this is just the way that I do it. Some people dip the whole jug in and they have sauce coming down the side and going all over the bench. If you want to do it that way, that's fine. Me personally, I don't. So I just get a ladle and fill the jug up. And then fill the bottle up. It's as easy as that. I don't know whether you can see the steam coming off this, but the bottles are hot, the product's hot, and the seals are going to be hot. Just make sure when you're filling up your jug that you just give it a wee stir around, because often the fruit and stuff, like it'll settle on the bottom a little bit. So just give it a bit of a stir around so you're getting a good mixture. Now it does look quite thin at the moment, but like I said, it will thicken up. Now another thing I wanted to mention about plum sauce, and a lot of other sauces actually, is that they're often quite vinegary after they're just made. So you can generally try them and you'll get a hint of the fruit flavour, but then you'll get hit with this vinegar taste. Whatever you do, do not throw it out. That is normal. And the longer you store it, the more it mellows and that vinegar taste will disappear. So for my plum sauce, I generally make it a year in advance. So we're eating the stuff this year that I made last year. And the stuff that I made this year, we'll eat next year, if that makes sense. So just put it in the back of your cupboard, but try a little experiment. This is what I say to the people that come to my workshops. I get them to try it as soon as it comes out, and then I say to them, go home and try it in 24 hours, because even within that 24 hours there's a huge difference, but it'll still be a little bit vinegary, but the longer you leave it, the better it gets. The flavour will only improve. So this is the plum sauce recipe from the Digby Law Book. I use this recipe with peaches. So I often make this recipe with just blackberry peaches as well. I have actually made that plum sauce recipe with pears as well, and it was beautiful. See, it's as easy as that. Now I actually cooked this up. Today's Friday. I cooked this up Wednesday, and it just sat on the stove yesterday because I was just really busy doing other things. So don't panic. Sometimes I'll cook it up the night before and then just let it sit on the stove overnight, and then do it. So if it sits on the stove for a couple of days because you're busy, it's okay. I certainly wouldn't leave it on there for a week or two in a 30-degree weather, because you'll find that it'll probably go off and ferment and not be very nice at all. And that is how easy it is to bottle. So then I just get a towel and just pop the seal on tight, like as tight as you can go. And then I just leave it on the bench to seal, and as it cools, it will pull the seal down, and it'll seal, and that'll be good on your shelf for years. You don't have to refrigerate it. Even after you've opened it, you don't have to refrigerate it. I tend to in the summer though, when it's really, really hot, but my sauce just sits in the bottom of my cupboard. And we go from there. Right, I'll just grab another 4 bottles. You don't have to use bottles either, you can use jars. I've used jars when I haven't had any bottles. No stress. Right, so I hope that's helped. Trying to think if there's anything else. Okay, when you take your fruit out of the freezer, often, and it's the same with tomatoes, there will be an awful lot of juice that comes out. I did tip some of the juice off. When I'm doing tomato sauce with frozen tomatoes, I always defrost and take some of the juice off as well. I mean, you don't have to, but I personally do, because then it doesn't take as long to reduce. The tomato sauce recipe that I've got was my grandmother's, and you have to cook it for 3 or 4 hours and let it reduce down. Now, I used to stick my grandmama's recipe through the moolie as well, just because I liked the texture of it. But sometimes if I'm in a hurry, I just use a stick blender, and I do that. And you can do that with tomato sauce, because obviously you don't have pips and stones to worry about. So that is the advantage if you cut your plums, or if you're doing it with just blackberry peaches, which are easy. You can just stick your immersion blender or stick blender in to the pot and whiz everything up, and it's a lot quicker as well than taking it out, and not as many dishes, not as much clean up. So people often ask me as well what my favourite book is. I have got heaps of preserving books and chutney books and jam books, and as you can imagine, if you've been to my house, you'll see the bookshelf. Actually, I've got 2 that are just packed full of cookbooks and things. But my absolute favourite, because he was a New Zealand author, and uses good old common ingredients, nothing fancy. So my favourite is the old Digby Law pickle and chutney book. It's got all sorts of things in it, from mountain pawpaw sauce to cabbage and carrot relish to barbecue relish to pumpkin chutney to persimmon chutney to gooseberry chutney. My gooseberry bush has got gooseberries on it for the first time this year. It's very exciting. Only about 6, so I don't think there'll be enough to make sauce, but they'll be enjoyed nevertheless. It's got different vinegars in it. Pickled onions, pickled shallots, garden pickles, Swedish pickled vegetables. There is so much in it. It's so worth buying. It's worth the investment, in my opinion. I know that some people have struggled to find it. I know that they sell it on Trade Me. Some places sell it for around $29. Other places sell it for a little bit more than that, so shop around. I'm always looking in op shops, and I buy them when I see them, and then I pass it on to you guys, generally for what I paid for it. But people are copying on, and they're quite expensive at op shops now, because the whole preserving thing's taking off. So it looks like I'm going to end up with around about 12-ish jars. Just of stuff that I had in the freezer from last year. Another piece of equipment that I recommend that you find is a good old silicone spoon. It is so much easier to scrape out the pot with a silicone spoon, which obviously acts like a spatula, than using a spatula. Well, I find it easier anyway. So that's about it. I'm going to finish up now. If you've got any questions, just ask them in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. But I think that about covers it. So go for it. Just do it. Give it a go. It's a great way to use up your plums, peaches, stuff. Experiment. Try different fruit. Make it with apricots if you've got heaps of apricots, or pears. Generally, it works. Like I said, I made it with pears one year, and it was absolutely beautiful. It had to sit for a little while, but it was really, really good. So yeah, that's it from me for now. I hope you're all having a great day, and get to and start cooking that stuff out of the freezer before next season rolls round. Ciao!